Well, it's a soup kind of day. Now, on a previous video, I showed you how to make a really good pot roast. But hey, let's face it, if you're only a couple people, how many days in a row are you going to eat the pot roast the way you originally made it? So let's turn it into something else. Let's turn it into really good chili. It's delicious, it's easy, and so here's how it goes. I have an onion. We're going to coarse chop this onion, and I'm going to saute it in a little olive oil, and then we're going to chop up the beef and put that in there. Just a really coarse chop. A little bit of oil to give it a little something to cook in. And we'll stir it up. On top of the onions, I'm going to add a little bit extra garlic to that. Through the press. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've figured out that I'm a big fan of this garlic press because it's fast and it's easy. And while the onions are browning, so I don't trash my cutting board, I'm going to cut this pot roast into sort of like smaller pieces. Now, there's a pretty decent sized piece of fat in that. I don't necessarily want that much fat, again, added. I could have actually put that in the bottom to saute the onions in, but too late. Already have the oil in there. I don't want to add any more fat. So we're just going to give this a quick chop. This is going to make a really good chili for sure. I actually like making chili out of a chuck roast as opposed to ground beef. Has better flavor. Oops, there's another piece of good size fat we can take out. So you can go through this as you cut it. Take the big chunks of fat out of there. So the onions have browned nicely. These are looking really good. Now, to warm this meat up, we can pick this up carefully, put the meat in the bottom of the pan, and because I'm going to thin out the sauce that I had, I'm going to add a little bit more seasoning to this, and I'm going to put it on now so that when I put that leftover sauce in there, it'll mix a little bit easier. And I'm going to add just a little bit more chili powder. I am going to add just a tiny bit of crushed red pepper because it should have a little bit of heat to it. It's chili, why not? I'm going to add a touch more oregano. And then I am also going to add to the chili some cumin. Now what I really like to do with cumin is because you don't use that much of it, I buy the seed and put it in my spice mill to grind it up and turn it into a powder. The flavor is 100% night and day to pre-ground that you're going to buy in the store. Alright, so we'll stir the seasonings in there. Let those bloom for a little bit. And now I'm adding the leftover sauce that I had. By the way, I'm using a silicone spatula so that it doesn't melt as I'm stirring this up. Plastic spatulas will melt for sure. So, now we have a little bit of the gravy. Then, I pre-cooked some beans. You can buy canned beans to add to this, but I much prefer to buy dried beans. Takes less space. Soak them overnight. and then simmer them with some bay leaves in it for a good couple hours till they soften up. Anyway, the texture's better, everything about them's better. So we're also going to be adding a little bit of pepper, and I chose a sweet red pepper, though you could use green, just because I like the flavor of a sweet red better. And so I want to take the membrane out of this, do it so you can see it, by just slicing that away, because that is totally unnecessary. So that's gone. Then stir that up a bit. And then what I want to do is mince the pepper. Now the reason that I slice it the way I did was ends off, open it up, take the seed out, is because when you go to mince the pepper, this will give you a much better and easier cut. So now that you've got the little sticks made, then just take your knife and cut it into a cute little dice. A lot of people will cut the pepper in half without taking the ends off. However, I just find that a little bit less consistent with your cut on the pepper. Now here's the top and the bottom that you had, so I cut that into strips, and now that too dices up really easy. And then, oh, and then when you cut these, make sure you cut them the skin side down to the cutting board, because if you have a knife that's not as sharp as it should be, like mine, then you'll find that it's a lot easier to cut the pepper with the skin down to the cutting board. So now we have a little bit of onion in there, and we have the meat in there, and now I'm going to put the beans in there, and we're going to add a little bit of liquid to thin it out some. And then this is going to go to the stove where it'll cook for a couple hours to get the flavors all blossomed and bloomed and mellowed out. And then we will serve it with sour cream, some fresh cilantro, a little shredded cheddar. Won't that be tasty? So, all right, this is off to the stove, and we will revisit this in a couple hours. Well, a few days ago, I had a soup marathon in my kitchen. I made 3 one-pot wonders really fast. You'll be able to find all the videos on my channel. However, they were made and then refrigerated, and I'll show you what we came up with. Out of the pot roast, I made some really wonderful beef chuck chili. And that married with all the seasonings, and I used the sauce from the pot roast because it had a lot of chili and cumin and all the chili spices in it to cook the beef chuck after I cut it down small size and then got simmered with the sauce and the beans. And so now what we have is this really wonderful looking chili that I'm going to garnish with a daub of sour cream. We're going to put some cheddar on it, and then I happen to have in the refrigerator some tomatillo salsa that I made last year, and that stuff was really good, and on top of chili it's wonderful. Then to put fresh chopped cilantro or just a nice sprig of cilantro. You want something green to liven it up. Either way, it's really good. Now, you could warm this ever so slightly again to get the cheddar to melt. However, if you give this a little time, the cheddar will melt on the top. And you know what? Combination of all three of those, it's really good. So that is the beef chuck chili. So in my one pot wonder recipes, we have the beef chuck chili. I garnished it with sour cream, white cheddar, and tomatillo salsa. And I have a zucchini and sausage stew, excellent stuff. And the leftover split pea ham with a little tomato and curry. If those that don't like split pea, try it with the tomato and curry because they won't even know that there's split peas in it. It's quite good with no added fat of cream to thicken it or make it become creamy. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you give all these a whirl and I hope you enjoy them.